What's up, man? So it is like the end of July, which means that it is hot outside and it's very dry outside. And in terms of the NBA season, this is the driest it's gonna get because Adrian Wojnarowski tweeted this out at 12:31 a.m. last night. ESPN sources as Brooklyn Nets star Kevin Durant's trade request approaches its fourth week, the Boston Celtics have emerged among teams engaged in talks on a possible deal. Now, um, this is very shameless by Woj. We will get into this article, but first of all, he tweeted this at 12:31 a.m. on a Sunday. The NBA off season has been super dry the past week, 2 weeks. The biggest thing that has happened is DeAndre Ayton signed his contract, and then after that there was some talks about Donovan Mitchell getting traded. But that's like literally it. Nothing else has happened. Zero news on KD trade. Zero anything. It's been very dry. It's been very nothing. So let's see what Woj tweeted. Let's look at this article and see what new stories and updates we have about this KD trade. So, as Woj tweeted, Boston Celtics among teams to engage in talks with Brooklyn Nets. Now, KD asked for his trade. There hasn't been that much news lately at all because, a Kevin Durant trade is pretty hard to do. They're asking for a lot. They should be asking for a lot because he's on a 4-year contract. He's in his prime, whatever. He's Kevin Durant. Of course, you want as much as possible. But let's see what he says. He says right here in the very first paragraph this is barely a paragraph. If you take this part out, which is like the title, the Celtics appear no closer to acquiring Durant than others. In discussion with the Nets, but Boston's ability to include all-star forward Jaylen Brown as a centerpiece and offers does help make the team formidable in its pursuits, sources said. He basically said absolutely nothing has happened, but the Celtics appear no closer to acquiring Durant than others. That's not an update. That's nothing. That's literally like, hey, there's another team. Nothing has happened. Nothing at all has happened, but, they're another team. And, they are another team, along with the Miami Heat, Phoenix Suns, and Toronto Raptors, who have been well known to have varying degrees of interest in Durant. But the Celtics also have been in regular contact with the Nets. There are no deals believed to have traction for Durant, and no team has yet to reach the significant threshold that the Nets have set to trade one of the league's most talented players. The Nets' posture on potential trade has been largely unchanged. They want a massive return that includes potential multiple unprotected first-round picks, pick swaps, and impactful players for Durant. None of that is new. Everyone has known that. As soon as that happened, of course, everyone could assume that the Brooklyn Nets want a lot of good players and first-round picks and whatever. It's Kevin Durant, Of course they want that. But this is not news. He's basically saying that they have as good a chance as anyone else and that nothing new has happened. I don't really buy Boston being in this for real. They were just in the finals. They swept Brooklyn out of the first round, and Brooklyn was the only team to get swept in the playoffs. So, I don't really see how that is much of a possibility at all. Jaylen Brown would be a pretty good centerpiece. I mean, he's better than anything the Heat and the Suns can give out. I think Scottie Barnes is better than Jaylen Brown as an asset to trade for Kevin Durant, but the Raptors aren't trading Scottie, and I don't think Boston should trade Jaylen Brown. Like, their team right now is honestly better than last year with the addition of Malcolm Brogdon, and they made it to the finals. They got to 6 games against the Warriors. So I don't really see the need for them to make this major change up, especially because Jaylen is way younger than Durant, and I think it would just mess up the chemistry and the pecking order of this team. Like, Tatum is obviously first, and then Brown, and then whoever else. Kevin going there would just mess it up, and obviously it's Kevin Durant, but with how much the Boston would have to give away, Jaylen, there's talks right here. all these first round picks, 25, 27, 29, two pick swaps, 24 and 26. I mean, sure. You probably still have to give away Marcus Smart. Probably still got to give away Robert Williams. I don't know, Peyton Pritchard, Derek White, whoever else they want. You would have to give all of that away for Kevin Durant. And I think that this Boston team is very deep. They have proven to be successful defensively. They're one of the best teams in the league. So I don't really see the need for them to make this massive change up like that. Brown is 25 years old. He has 2 years and $56 million left on his current contract. If Jaylen Brown didn't want to be with the Nets, he could just leave after 2 years as well. So it's not like he's guaranteed to re-sign with Brooklyn if he got traded. Obviously, Durant, 12-time All-Star, at 33 years old, he has 4 years left and $98 million left on his contract, which means Brooklyn has no incentive. They have no real reason to actually need to trade Durant just because he asked about it, because he's still going to have to play for them unless he threatens to sit out, which would be kind of crazy. A player of Kevin Durant's caliber threatening to sit out because he wants to get traded with 4 years left on his contract and all this money. That's going to be a huge thing between the Players Association and the league owners and all that when the next TV deal or whatever it is coming up in a few years, where they have to renegotiate the contracts and stuff. If Kevin Durant wanted to sit out instead of playing his contract like this, there would have to be some changes made between the league and the Players Association about contracts, because if you give a guy a 4-year contract and he just sits out because he wants to get traded and he's Kevin Durant levels of good, what does that say for the rest of the league, for everyone else in the league who can just, I guess now they can just sit out, whatever. Obviously, I really don't think that's going to happen. It would give such a bad image to Kevin Durant, and maybe he doesn't care about that, but I still think that that's a bit ridiculous to happen. So, the Nets got swept in the first round, and they built their current core in part from the draft compensation from the 2013 draft that sent Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce to the Nets. And Tatum and Brown were both acquired through Brooklyn picks delivered to Boston. So, if this hypothetical trade did happen, it would be kind of like the opposite of that Paul Pierce and KG trade, with all the picks and all that. Basically, this is a very shameless report by Adrian Wojnarowski that has zero actual meaningful updates. And this is honestly, he posted this last night on Sunday. They need some news to cover for the next week on TV. So now this just gives them an excuse to talk about the Celtics and Brooklyn and KD, and to give a little bit of life in that story and in the NBA overall. But in terms of actual news and updates, it's nothing, And now you got Jaylen Brown tweeting out SMH. I mean, he's always kind of been in some rumors to get traded. Tatum and Brown were kind of looked at before this last playoff run. It was like, can this duo really work out? Which I always thought was kind of ridiculous, because what's the rush to trade two young two-way wings? I don't really get the point, I don't really get why everyone was such in a rush to break this duo up, because I think it could really work. And based on this last playoff run, I think it can work. And now for the rumors of Jaylen Brown to get traded, even after all of that, I understand his, I don't know if you can say this is anger from just SMH one tweet, but I would be a bit frustrated too if I was him, because come on, man. I'm Jaylen Brown. I'm good. I mean, he's not good as Kevin Durant, but it's kind of disrespectful from Boston to think about trading him. I don't know. It's just kind of a mess.